The International Space Station is the largest global space project in the history of mankind. It is a multinational, collaborative project involving 5 participating space agencies: NASA, Roscosmos, JAXA, ESA, and CSA. But the time to lay it to rest has finally arrived. Interesting, right? Well, today is your lucky day because we will be talking all about NASA's plans to retire the International Space Station by 2031. But why is such a massive, expensive, and ambitious project being retired? How will a giant station orbiting the Earth even be brought back down? Well, stick with us as we answer all these questions and more. So let's dive right in. NASA intends to keep operating the International Space Station until the end of 2030, after which the ISS would be crashed into a remote part of the Pacific Ocean known as Point Nemo, according to newly published plans outlining its future. Launched in 2000, the space station has orbited 227 nautical miles above Earth, with more than 200 astronauts from 19 different countries enjoying stints on board, representing a continuous human presence in space. NASA said that commercially operated space platforms would replace the ISS as a venue for collaboration and scientific research. The private sector is technically and financially capable of developing and operating commercial low Earth orbit destinations with NASA's assistance. We look forward to sharing our lessons learned and operations experience with the private sector to help them develop safe, reliable, and cost-effective destinations in space, said Phil McAllister, Director of Commercial Space at NASA headquarters, in a statement. The report we've delivered to Congress describes in detail our comprehensive plan for ensuring a smooth transition to commercial destinations after the retirement of the International Space Station in 2030, McAllister continued. In the International Space Station Transition Report, NASA said the plan was for the ISS to fall to Earth in an area known as the South Pacific Oceanic Uninhabited Area, also known as Point Nemo. The report said that its budget estimate assumed that the deorbit would happen in January 2031. Named after the submarine sailor in Jules Verne's novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Point Nemo is the point in the ocean that is farthest from land and has been a watery grave for many spacecraft throughout the ages. The area is approximately 3,000 miles off New Zealand's eastern coast and 2,000 miles north of Antarctica, and it's estimated that spacefaring nations such as the US, Russia, Japan, and European countries have sunk more than 263 pieces of space debris there since 1971. The report said the ISS would perform thrusting maneuvers that would ensure safe atmospheric entry. The ISS won't rest on its laurels for the next 8 years. NASA said goals for the next decade include using the ISS as an analog for a Mars transit mission, according to the report. The International Space Station is entering its 3rd and most productive decade as a groundbreaking scientific platform in microgravity, said Robin Gatens, Director of the International Space Station at NASA headquarters, in a statement. This 3rd decade is one of the results, building on our successful global partnership to verify exploration and human research technologies to support deep space exploration, continue to return medical and environmental benefits to humanity, and lay the groundwork for a commercial future in low Earth orbit. We look forward to maximizing these returns from the space station through 2030 while planning for the transition to commercial space destinations that will follow, NASA said. The space station has been home to many scientific firsts. The first item to be 3D printed on the space station occurred in 2014. NASA astronaut Kate Rubin sequenced DNA in space for the first time in 2016. And the 5th state of matter, called a Bose-Einstein condensate, was produced in space by NASA's Cold Atom Lab on the station in 2018. Astronauts have learned how to grow lettuce and leafy greens in space. The first space-grown salad was sampled by astronauts in 2015. Now they're even growing radishes and chilies on the station. This could be used one day to help astronauts grow their own food on deep space missions. China, whose astronauts have long been excluded from the ISS, launched the first module of its planned space station last year. While not as large as the ISS, the Chinese space station is expected to be fully operational by the end of this year. Russia has said it will leave the ISS project in 2025 and plans to build its own space station that could launch in 2030. Having a good time learning about the ISS? We have told you all about its retirement, but what about its origins and rich history? When was the ISS constructed and put in space? What was its initial purpose? Take your time and think about this, but while you think, please subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to receive instant notification about all our future videos. Just as the oceans opened up a new world for clipper ships and Yankee traders, space holds enormous potential for commerce today. The International Space Station took 10 years and more than 30 missions to assemble. It is the result of unprecedented scientific and engineering collaboration among 5 space agencies representing 15 countries. The space station is approximately the size of a football field, a 460-ton, permanently crewed platform orbiting 250 miles above Earth. It is about 4 times as large as the Russian space station Mir and 5 times as large as the US Skylab. The idea of a space station was once science fiction, existing only in the imagination until it became clear in the 1940s that the construction of such a structure might be attainable by our nation. As the space age began in the 1950s, designs of space planes and stations dominated popular media. The first rudimentary station was created in 1969 by the linking of 2 Russian Soyuz vehicles in space, followed by other stations and developments in space technology until construction began on the ISS in 1998, aided by the first reusable spacecraft ever developed, the American shuttles. Originally called Freedom in the 1980s by US President Ronald Reagan, who authorized the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to build it within 10 years, it was redesigned in the 1990s to reduce costs and expand international involvement, at which time it was renamed. In 1993, the United States and Russia agreed to merge their separate space station plans into a single facility, integrating their respective modules and incorporating contributions from the European Space Agency and Japan. Assembly of the International Space Station, the ISS, began with the launches of the Russian control module Zarya on November 20, 1998, and the US-built Unity connecting node the following month, which were linked in orbit by the US Space Shuttle astronauts. In mid-2000, the Russian-built module Zvezda, a habitat and control center, was added, and on November 2nd of that year, the ISS received its first resident crew, comprising Russian cosmonauts Sergei Krikalev and Yuri Gudzenko, and American astronaut William Shepard, who flew up in a Soyuz spacecraft. The ISS has been continuously occupied since then. A NASA microgravity laboratory called Destiny and other elements were subsequently joined to the station, with the overall plan calling for the assembly over a period of several years of a complex of laboratories and habitats crossed by a long truss supporting 4 units that held large solar power arrays and thermal radiators. Aside from the United States and Russia, station construction involved Canada, Japan, Brazil, and 11 ESA members. Russian modules were carried into space by Russian expendable launch vehicles, after which they automatically rendezvoused with and docked to the ISS. Other elements were ferried up by space shuttle and assembled in orbit during spacewalks. During ISS construction, both shuttles and Russian Soyuz spacecraft transported people to and from the station, and a Soyuz remained docked to the ISS at all times as a lifeboat. Much of the early research by ISS astronauts was focused on long-term life sciences and material sciences investigations in weightless environments. After the breakup of the Space Shuttle orbiter Columbia in February 2003, the shuttle fleet was grounded, which effectively halted the expansion of the station. Meanwhile, the crew was reduced from 3 to 2, and their role was restricted mainly to caretaker status, limiting the amount of science that could be done. Crews flew up to and returned from the ISS in Soyuz spacecraft, and the station was serviced by automated progress ferries. So, do you think the US government and NASA are making the right call by retiring the International Space Station amidst all the tensions with Russia? Would you have taken a different decision? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want to watch more of our amazing videos, then stay tuned.